I'm endlessly fascinated and curious about the world around us, about business, about politics, about the arts, about culture, developments, social issues, and the people. Most importantly, about the people that are shaping our future. Every night, I get the opportunity to have conversations, to dive into conversations with thought leaders, with change makers, entrepreneurs, politicians, and everyday heroes who unpack the ideas and stories that I think matter to all of us. What's the future of our economy? What's the future of our country? How do we build stronger communities? What can we learn from music, theater, sports, politics, the arts? How does policy shape our real lives? What does leadership look like, real leadership in today's environment? If it's interesting and relevant and topical and we're talking about it, you'll hear about it here at 6 o'clock on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I want to have real conversations, in-depth conversations. These are ideas we're sharing. This is the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Thanks for joining me. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Ukraine is obviously a huge topic in this world today and has been for the last 2+ years. Frankly, probably for the last 10 years, as the Russian invasion in several stages has taken place of what's been going on in Ukraine. And I have interacted with someone on LinkedIn that I think is an incredibly interesting commentator on what's going on. Her name is Elena Davlikanova. She is the senior fellow with the Sashanida Security Center in Ukraine and the Center for European Policy Analysis in DC. And she's invited to join us today Yevheniy Malik, who is a veteran of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. And we're going to talk about Ukraine and what's happening and about the Russian invasion. And I think what they want to tell us is that Ukraine's still standing and will continue to stand, is appreciative of what all of us and the rest of the world have supported them with, but frankly wants a lot more. So Elena and Yevheniy, is that correct? Welcome to the show. Yevheniy, I apologize. Thank you so much. So maybe I can start with you, Elena. Tell me why you think it's so important to be part of this security center, the Center for European Policy Analysis, why you're so frequent commentator on social media, what you're trying to achieve by your involvement.
Since 2022, a lot of Ukrainians started to look for a new place in society because we all had to join together and protect our motherland. Ukrainians have this saying, I am a small drop in the ocean. And altogether, all the small drops were doing whatever each of us could do at where we were at. So I became involved into advocacy efforts because my whole life I've been involved into working for international organizations and also in academia, and I saw my place over there. So in 2023, I joined the Center for European Policy Analysis. It's a pretty famous Washington think tank, which supported the whole program for Ukrainian journalists and academics in order to present the voice of Ukrainians in DC at a very crucial moment. And then after a year, when I came back to Kiev, I joined Sagaidachny Security Center. Sagaidachny is one of the most famous hetmans of Ukraine, meaning a military leader. And this think tank works very closely with the Department of Defense, and we're looking into ways to help Ukraine to win this war.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I apologize, I pronounced your name so terribly, Mr. Malik. Tell me, you're a veteran of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Where were you fighting? In the Black Sea? Or give us a sense of what your involvement has been, sir.
Yeah, sure. Actually, my brigade is one of the most popular in Ukraine and got truly brave history. Personally, I served as a soldier, as a military, since the year 2018, and my biggest battle was the battle for Mariupol. And I was fighting there from very first day of full-scale invasion from Russian side to the very last day. And after that, I spent 2.5 years in Russian captivity. in Russian regions such as Ryazan and Automatic Republic of Mordva, prison number 10. I got back in the year 2024, 14 September, so last year. Since that time, I work in foundation and try to help other veterans of this war, Ukrainian veterans. So this is basic what I can tell about my army period of time in my in army.
My gosh, you were in a prisoner of war. Please tell me what that experience was like. Where were you? Where were you kept? What was the camp like? What was your treatment like?
I get a full interview, approximately 3 hours about the captivity and 1.5 hours about the Battle of Mariupol. I will try to spend like a couple of minutes, but everything I can say that was like piece of hell on the earth. That was the worst period of my life at all. Now I look pretty good, but compared to to me when I came back, that was incredibly horrible. Like everyday punishment, beaten up, electrocuted, even biting with the dogs. And this is the way Russians treat to prisoners, and not just to military prisoners, because at least 20% of prisoners, of Ukrainian prisoners, were civilian people who never served in not just in Ukrainian army, but in any kind of army. They are civilian, and Russians treat them in the same way. So basically that was a concentration camp for Ukrainians.
My God. So you were there for what, 2 years?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And how long the Battle of Mariupol? Well, remind everyone, if you could, where Mariupol is in Ukraine, and tell us a little bit about that battle.
Yes, of course. So Mariupol is the biggest sea around the Azov Sea, biggest city, Mariupol, in Azov Sea. So that is on the south of Ukraine, and nowadays this territory is completely occupied. But the story is that on the 24th February of 2022, Russians they started to make this full-scale invasion, and they got approximately 8 main directions. That was like Kherson direction, Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Izum, and Mariupol. So Mariupol was one of the main directions. They concentrated more than 30,000 soldiers there, and we were fighting. We got there two troops, one brigade, my brigade, 36th Marine Brigade, and another one, Azov Regiment, Special Force, if you know who are they. And we were fighting, we were completely surrounded there from the first week of full-scale invasion. So we were completely surrounded. That was the only case when almost 2 brigades were completely surrounded. And that was a tough war. Russians, they couldn't assault us. They couldn't do anything, basically. So at the end, they simply destroyed the city with air troops. They just bombed it. And the thing we can see in Kiev or in Kharkiv nowadays during the night, well, the same situation was in Mariupol, but every 20 minutes. So at the end, we were run of ammunition, run of food, and the president gave an order to save people, to save soldiers, and he gave an order to surrender. And we did it. Actually, we survived, but I want to remind you that the majority of Mariupol defenders, right now still are in prison. Russians hate us for that battle because basically they lost it. When we got 1 against 10 of them, approximately, and they couldn't do anything. So they were going to capture Kiev for 3 days, but they couldn't capture Mariupol even for 1.5 months. So basically, they destroyed it, and they hate us for that battle because we broke all their plans. While we were fighting in Mariupol, our army created a new front line, and this is exactly the front line you can see right now in the map. So that map was created with the help of us, and that was obvious victim to save all Ukrainian army, and that worked. And now Russians cannot do anything. Even now, if you can see, they cannot break this front line, and they know who is guilty for that. That's why they hate Mariupol defenders, and they don't really want them to exchange. Thank you for your attention.
So you're saying the front line that was created after this Battle of Mariupol is still the front line today. So Russia has not advanced farther in 2 years.
Yes, that is so unbelievable. We were in the captivity. We were not allowed to know any kind of information, not even the day, not even the time, not even the place where are we. So we were dreaming like together in our rooms, like we were speaking to each other and made a brainstorm. What is going on? What will be Ukraine after we come back? But when I got back to Ukraine in 2.5 years, I saw the map and I was surprised that actually we got a lot of territories back till the time I was in the captivity. So that is really unbelievable. Like
it really is
Russians.
unbelievable. Mr. Malik, I apologize. How do I pronounce your first name?
Yevheniy.
Yevheniy. I'll just call you Mr. Malik. That's going to be easier for me.
Yes, if you like that, no problems.
I think the whole world has been amazed that Ukraine has withstood this army from Russia that is so much larger. We thought so much more powerful. We thought so much more better armed. I think the world did think that Kiev was going to fall within 3 days or something like that. And obviously, the Battle of Mariupol is one of those huge successes for Ukraine to establish this front that they haven't been able to move past. What's the reason? What is it? Are you just superhuman military soldiers? What do you think is the reason why Ukraine has done as well as it has done in this war so far against this mighty Russian army?
That is so multiple reasons. We cannot find just one. We have to study this process. That's why I'm working in some historical project just to make an archivation of this war, because we have to study this process from the very beginning, from the Crimea, from the year 2014, and to find the answers for this question, because this is really important. This is we may find a key for small states to stand with the big one in such situations, because truly, yes, Russians they truly believe they will invade us and capture all the country for maximum 3 weeks, and in the captivity they said the same. They were like, what the hell, why you don't give up, like why we cannot beat you, and they were beating us captivities prisoners for that because they couldn't do anything. All the time we knew, like, in case this day they beat us much stronger than the previous months, that means something happened on the battlefield. And that was so obvious that they cannot do anything. We even asked them about the territory, probably in case you know something, maybe you occupied something new, but they couldn't understand where is Poltava city, where is Sumy city, and Gulay-Polshina, and etc. So we could understand that they don't, that is eastern part of Ukraine, and they don't even know where is it. That means that the front line is basically the same and they can't do anything. We need a lot of work and brainstorming and to gather data from each battle to find an answer. How did we manage? But definitely we did it, and we are protecting our country even now. And we got the success because nowadays I'm studying Russian publics, pro-governmental, pro-Russian from their side, and they know about this invasion, summer invasion right now. They were hoping to get the all Donetsk and Lugansk region at least this summer, during this summer. But here we are in the middle of the summer, and they are screaming like, "What the hell? We didn't have anything. We are all our plans are broken again, and we can't do anything." Like Putin says that he is all right, that his army is like coming and further, going further, but it's just in his mind. Actually, if you open the map, you will see that that is lie. They didn't got any city, even the small city, almost 1 year. So this is crazy. Like
This is going to be a fascinating conversation today with Yevheniy Malik, a veteran of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. He spent 2.5 years as a prisoner of war after the Battle of Mariupol. And Elena Davlikanova, who's a senior fellow with the Security Center in Ukraine and a Center for European Policy Analysis in Washington, D.C. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with Elena and Mr. Malik. And talk about what's going on in Ukraine today. Talk about these Russian nightly attacks. Talk about how the Ukrainian population is responding. Talk about Western aid. This is going to be a great conversation today with two people that are in Ukraine and very close to these issues, and get a great update from the front line almost about what's going on. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking about Ukraine and where we are in the war, the Russian invasion of Ukraine today. We've got Sergeant Malik with us today. He's a veteran of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. He's got really quite a compelling story of supporting the Battle of Mariupol. That he says, even though Ukraine gave up Mariupol eventually because they held the line so firmly, and that line hasn't changed in 2.5 years since then, that it ends up being a strategic success for Ukraine. And he's also mentioned a few things about his time in captivity, that it was hell on earth and the worst experience of his life. We're going to have to come back and see what more we can find out about that. But now I want to turn to Elena. Elena Davlikanova is a senior fellow with a security center in Ukraine. I apologize, I can't pronounce the name of it. You'll have to tell me what that center's name is. And also before that, she was with the Center for European Policy Analysis in Washington, D.C. Elena, I've seen author numerous different pieces. I think you published with the Atlantic Council. You're very active on social media, commenting on what's going on in Ukraine right now. And so just before we get into that, are the two of you in Kyiv? Whereabouts are the two of you coming to us from?
I reside in Kyiv. Currently, I reside in Kyiv full time. Currently, I'm in Kyiv Oblast.
And Sergeant Malik, are you in Kyiv, or whereabouts are you, sir?
I'm originally from Poltava city, Poltava region, but I served in a brigade which was based in Mykolaiv city. But that is actually, because professional army lives in the fields.
Yeah.
So I was everywhere.
And today, where are you, sir?
I do not serve today.
No, I know, but today, where are you coming to us from? Are you in Ukraine?
Yes, I'm in Ukraine. I live in Kyiv, but I just come to visit my grandma right now. So I'm not in Kyiv this day, but I live in Kyiv, basically. Okay. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, both of you, for joining me. So, Elena, if I could turn to you, these attacks You know, we read the reports in the media of more drones last night, more missiles last night than ever before. It seems like Russia is ramping up their nightly attacks, and it doesn't appear, at least from what we read in the press here, to be just military. It's civilian. It's infrastructure. It's cities. Tell me what's happening, and why do you think Russia's doing this right now? What's their strategy?
Well, June saw the highest monthly civilian casualties in 3 years. There were more than 200 people killed and more than 1,000 injured. This is a very clear terrorization of civilian population. This is against all norms of the war. Moscow knows what it is doing. It is trying to crack Ukrainian spirit. They hope that if they continue attacking and terrorizing Ukrainian civilians every night, when people do not sleep in their homes, they go to metro or bomb shelters. I'm not sure if you're following the news. 3 days ago, a drone killed a 1-year-old boy in Kherson. They were in their country house, and the drone just, did the killing. So the main idea is to break Ukrainians' spirit so that Ukrainian civil society would push the government to agree to Russia's peace deal. However, Russia's peace terms will put the end towards the existence of Ukraine. That is why every Ukrainian understands that this is unacceptable completely. And even despite the every night attacks on Ukrainians, we all know that our armed forces are holding the front line very firmly. So because Russians cannot move forward, and Evgeny already told about that, they are trying to also make a show for their own internal audience, so that that patriots, as they call it, so basically fascists, Russian fascists who support killing of Ukrainian civilians and occupation of Ukraine, so they would have at least something to work with, because these attacks might create an image that Russia has an upper hand in this whole situation. However, this is not true, because Ukraine is working very efficiently on creating anti-drone defense. Today there was an announcement that in Kiev there will be a new pilot project which is called Clear Sky, which will better protect the capital from air attacks. And we expect that Russia will use even more drones and even more missiles, because every time it is a combined attack. First, a lot of drones, they distract and exhaust our defense systems, and then you get cruise missiles and ballistic missiles that are hitting hard towards places like, for example, cancer hospital for children, Holocaust museum, kindergartens, maternity wards, and so on and so forth. So they know what they are doing. This is against all norms of the war, and they expect that maybe by autumn or winter they will push more Ukrainians, make more refugees out of Ukrainians, and this would also put pressure on some European countries. However, the migration has stabilized. Some Ukrainians came back, and those Ukrainians that have become refugees since 2022, they are successfully integrating into European labor markets, into European economies, and they are very respectable labor force in there. So overall, this plan will not at the end work. And I'm sure that together with our Western allies, we will be able to counter-attack, because Ukraine not only protects its own cities right now, but we also organize our own answers to these terrorist attacks by also sending drones, but not towards civilians, but towards military targets on the territory of Russia.
So tell me about the mood, both of you, if you could, of the Ukrainian people, and maybe Elena, put it in a historical context, if you could, because these types of attacks, have they worked in the past? When I think about the Battle of Britain in World War II, if anything, the Nazi attacks on London, the Battle of Britain, where they tried to do the same thing, terrorize the population. If anything, what it did is it cemented the morale of the British people. And frankly, when the Allied forces were attacking with firebombs some of the cities in Germany, it didn't defeat Germany. The German people stayed very loyal to the regime. And so, do these attacks, these terrorist type attacks, work, or actually are they counterproductive? And in fact, they get the population to be more supportive of what's going on.
Well, Ukrainians have a very dark sense of humor, so we have a joke. It's very simple here. If you survive the night bombing, then you go to work. If you don't, you don't. So we adapt. Of course, it's hard, but we know what the alternative is. And when you ask Yevheniy, what was one of the reasons Ukraine withstood the first invasion, it was the very, very ingrained, deep understanding what the Russian world, Ruski Mir, will bring each and every Ukrainian. It will be one big concentration camp. And we Ukrainians who love freedom, who love liberties, we are not ready for this to happen. And since May 2022, one of our sociological services, a very famous one, Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, conducts monthly studies of the civilians' opinion, so opinion polls. And even now, after all this, these many nights of terror, Ukrainians are not ready to allow Russia to officially recognize the occupied territories. People are not ready to give out the territories that are not occupied but that Russia demands, because this makes completely no sense. And there are other demands, like, for example, demilitarization or denazification, whatever this means, of Ukraine, or, for example, the neutral status. Now Ukrainians want to join NATO very much. It's very unfortunate that we are not being invited in this irreversible path to NATO becomes a path without the end. However, overall, Ukrainians understand that what they are fighting for is not even territory per se, it's the way of life. And that's why we are trying to convey a message that if Russia succeeds in Ukraine, what it is bringing to the currently occupied territories, it will spread, and Russia will not stop only with Ukraine, it will go further. And overall, the waves of these changes, the waves will tackle each and every country, and all the liberties that we are currently enjoying and that we very often take for granted, that they won't be there, and we will understand what we are having now and how valuable these freedoms are.
So, one point of view put forward by the Kremlin and some people that are supportive of Russia is that what Putin is wanting to do is to take over that portion of eastern Ukraine that speaks Russian or has spoken Russian, that voted for combinations with Russia in previous referendum, and they'll stop there. Another point of view is no, this is a recreation of big Russia, great Russia, that would, or the Soviet Union, that would potentially include not just Ukraine but Moldova and Belarus and maybe the Baltics and Poland. What do you believe is the truth, Elena?
I do not understand why Europeans do not take the threat seriously. Putin remembers very well, and he actually said that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the biggest tragedy of the 20th century. And he does remember where the borders of Soviet Union ended, and that Soviet Union used to control 1/3 of Germany. So the idea that sacrificing Ukraine or buying oneself time by helping Ukraine just enough for this war to drag on, it doesn't really solve the problem. Russia will stop where it will be stopped. So we need to stop it where it is currently standing. Then we need to liberate Ukrainian territories. And what is even more important, we need to press Russia so hard economically that it would, in a way, understand that it needs to change. So internal changes in Russia caused by economic hardships created due to external pressure. This is a way out for sustainable peace. So in our opinion, Russia, again, will stop where it will be stopped.
Sergeant Malik, maybe I could ask you, where does this hatred come from? You talked about how these camps were a concentration camp, and they treated you like you were in hell. I understood that 1/4 of Ukrainian people had blood relatives that lived in Russia. That there was a lot of families that were across the border. Ukraine and Russia had a long history of being on hockey teams together, working together. They were part of a country together. Where does this hatred come from that Russia seems to have for Ukraine and Ukrainians? Why would they want to, as Elena said, turn Ukraine into one big, huge concentration camp? I just don't understand it. Where does it come from, sir?
This is really easy to explain. Well, first of all, TV, that means propaganda. Do you know an expression? The first state which was occupied by Hitler was Germany. The same we can say about Russian Federation. The difference between Russia and Ukraine in this sphere is that Putin already occupied Russia, but he didn't occupy yet Ukraine. And this is how it works. Like, in case you see the TV, this propaganda, just try to spend some time. If in case you have it, you will find out that 90% of all news on Russian TV, newspapers, mass media, social media, according to international relationships, is about Ukraine and about some fantasy stories about this Nazi regime in Ukraine and etc. Plus, actually, the problem is that when we got to Russian Federation, to these concentration camps, they were truly angry on us, so we didn't give up fast, and we prevented them to go further to the west. That is maybe even a bigger reason why they treat us so horrible.
We're going to take a break for some messages. We're going to come back and we're going to ask Sergeant Malik a little bit more about his experience in captivity. We're going to ask Elena about a book that she's written called The War of Narratives, and how that has shifted. This is a fascinating conversation today with Sergeant Malik and Elena Davlikanova talking about the current state of the war in Ukraine. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're having a really interesting conversation tonight with Sergeant Malik, who is a veteran of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. He fought in the Battle of Mariupol, was captured, and served a year and 2.5 years in captivity in Russia, and was released in the fall of 2024, and is now back in Ukraine. And also we've got Elena Davlikanova, who is a senior fellow with the Security Center in Ukraine and the Center for European Policy Analysis in Washington, D.C. Sergeant Malik, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about your daily life. Like, were you in a cell? Were you in a yard? Were you in a building? Were you allowed to exercise? Were you given food? Tell me about what your life in captivity was like, if you could, sir.
Yes, easy. So you get up at 6 a.m. This is an order. You have to stand still from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. You are not allowed in your room. You are not allowed to speak. You are not allowed to walk. You are not allowed to sit. You are not allowed to lean on the bed or on the wall in case you are tired. You are not allowed to smile. You are not allowed to drink water or go to the toilet without an order. Basically, you are not even allowed to watch into the window. And the thing is that in each room you get a video camera, and in each barrack you got one Russian officer who is on duty, and he controls your behavior with the help of a monitor. So in case he sees that someone breaks these rules, he just send a troop. He just send a group of guards. That is seen a federal institution of punishment. They come, just get all the prisoners from the room where someone broke these rules. They bring them out to the corridor and they start to beat you up with the police baton, with the plastic tubes, with the electroshockers, just electrocute you. Even sometimes they let their dogs to bite you. Moreover, during the day, so basically you are not allowed to do anything, but you got 3 times meal, breakfast, dinner, supper, and you got this checkout, morning checkout. What does it mean? From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., 2 hours. They just come to the barrack and they beat up everyone. We got 37 rooms in the barrack, and they just start from the first room, get prisoners out to the corridor, beat them up during 3 minutes. Believe me, that's enough for you to just to become crazy. Then they put prisoners back to this room and then continue with the second room, third room, and they do this till the end. We count that was approximately 2 hours. So during the week, once in a week, we got a shower, 3 minutes. For 3 minutes, you have to get out from the room, come to the shower room, take off your clothes, take a shower with a cold or water, no matter if it's winter or what else. Put the clothes on and get back to the room. Of course, during your running, they are beating you with the batons because you're running all the time self-banned. You are not allowed to watch, like to look at their face. Actually, they used bandage, but they didn't let us to watch even their eyes. And once a week also, we got TV news. Again, 3 minutes. They just get out from their room, us, to special room with the TV, and they showed us news from this Donetsk and for the year 2017-2018. That was basically one of the reasons why we could understand that they are not succeed in Ukraine, because in case they show us the news from the year 2018, that means they don't have anything to show us during the year 2022 or 23, isn't it? And once a week, we were allowed to go out from our room for a walk. Again, you are self-banned. You go into the yard, just make one circle really fast, 30 seconds, and get back. Again, you are all the time you are punched, beaten up with the police batons. Basically, that's in average. That's all.
Was there any healthcare if people got sick or had problems? Were you treated, or were people dying, or what? Oh, I think we've lost them. Elena, you've written a book. Tell me about the book that you've written, please.
At the very beginning of my advocacy efforts, we decided that it is very important to explain Ukraine to the West. Ukraine has been ignored for too long, especially in Washington, where a lot of important decisions are being made. Ukraine was never actually viewed or studied properly. The policy was very, very much Moscow-centered, and that's why, being terra incognita, Ukraine needed to explain itself. So we gathered narratives around Ukraine since 1991 that were dominant in the Western, Ukrainian, and also Russian media. And if you look through them, you will see like 3 different countries. The major narratives that harmed Ukraine at those times was that it is a failed state, it cannot live without Russia, it is very corrupt, that we are brotherly nations with the Russian Federation, and so on and so forth. However, after the full-scale invasion, these narratives, they changed because Ukraine started finally creating the narrative. It wasn't created for it by Russia or the West. So among the new ones that were super important since the full-scale invasion is, for example, the narrative about Ukraine's victory. Ukraine's victory has never been defined, because first we were talking for as long as it takes, then for as long as we can, then we were saying that Ukraine's victory, if it means that it is preserved on a political map. So altogether, there was no clear policy in terms of helping Ukraine because we never knew like what the victory looks like. And moreover, another narrative that was very harmful is that Russia is invincible, that you cannot actually defeat Russia in general, like no one can defeat Russia, or Ukraine cannot defeat Russia because it's smaller. However, Russia actually lost a number of wars, Crimean War, the war against Japan, the World War I, Polish-Soviet War, war against Finland, Chechen War, Afghan War. So Russia can be defeated, it can lose, and sometimes the losses in these wars, they actually trigger positive changes in Russia. Let's remember the First World War, which coincided with the revolution in Russia, which didn't bring positive change, but there was hope at some point that it will. The Afghan War also coincided in time with the collapse of the Soviet Union and contributed to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So basically, we believe that if Ukraine is helped to win this war, this will trigger positive changes in Russia. And we should not fear neither the change of the regime in Moscow, because this was one of the main fears that prevented the Washington at the very beginning to provide Ukraine with enough weapons. And there were so many red lines crossed afterwards due to the work of advocates because of Ukraine's advocacy. First, we couldn't get little weapons, then we finally get them, but we didn't get long-range weapons, then we couldn't get F-16s, now we have all that Patriot system. There was a huge fight for Patriot system. So, one red line after another red line, and it never caused nuclear escalation. So we should not fear nuclear escalation because most probably it's not gonna happen. And if Russia loses, the world will not, end up.
You mentioned
probably the last important.
Sorry, go ahead.
The very last and important narrative is about Ukraine's resilience. Ukraine is admired for its resilience, and it is very nice, and we appreciate it. But, if you think that someone is resilient enough to not get enough aid, this is not the recipe for victory as well. So while appreciating Ukraine's resilience or buying time for Westerners to rearm, and redesign their security doctrines and so on and so forth, we need to get more support, enough to not only protect civilians that are currently suffering from Russian terrorism, but also to ensure that Ukraine is a victor in this war.
One of the red lines that you mentioned, about half an hour ago was that Ukraine wasn't allowed to use some of the armaments provided by Western allies to attack Russia itself. But you are doing that now.
Yeah.
Is that smart? Is that a good strategy? And what are you attacking and with what?
Oh, absolutely. Why is this a bad strategy? Unlike Russia, Ukraine doesn't target civilians, doesn't target hospitals, doesn't target kindergartens. We target, our targets are very legitimate. This is military objects, and we all saw a very powerful, by the way, Operation Spiderweb that was designed and implemented solely by Ukrainian special operation units. So when we destroyed 1/3 of Russia's aviation that is able to not only participate in the nightly attacks against Ukraine, but also these are carriers of nuclear warheads. That was a big favor for the whole world. What was the result? Like there was nothing, Russia didn't do anything that it never done before, because this escalation in terms of the number of drones that is being used by Russia in these nightly attacks, this is not a response to whatever Ukraine is doing. This is just a strategy. If Ukraine didn't respond, that would be the same type of actions. So overall, I believe that Ukraine should be allowed to finally make as many operations on the territory of Russia as possible, and Ukraine doesn't even need to ask for any permissions anymore. So in my opinion, we need to bring this war to the territory of the enemy, because otherwise, what kind of war is that? Only limited by the territory of Ukraine alone. What is it? Like, what
We need
kind
to
of
bring this war to
war
the
strategy
territory
is that?
of the enemy. That's profound. Thank you so much for that. We're going to take a final break for some messages and be back with some concluding comments with our two guests in 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Back in 2. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We've got Elena and Sergeant Malik with us tonight. This has been a really profound conversation tonight. Sergeant Malik talking about your captivity. It was harrowing to hear that. And Elena, your comments about the strategic rationale, the different narratives, how they've changed, and that we need to bring the battle to the enemy territory. I agree with you completely. I wonder, both of you, quickly, if you could tell me if you had an opportunity to speak with policymakers in Washington, D.C., or in European capitals, or in Canada, what would you tell them? Sergeant Malik, what would you tell President Trump right now, if you could?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This is a good question. I want to mention I heard the speech of Friedrich Merz. This is Chancellor of Germany right now, and he recently this week he got the message to the East and West. Basically, what I really liked, he said that first of all, to the East, I'm sorry, we will not give up, and to the West, he said that we have to unite, because nevertheless, what wouldn't happen? We got the same values, like North America, Europe. We are the same. We can speak and argue, but we can't fight with each other. On the other side, we got this state, Russian Federation. We can see what are they doing, and the problem is that Putin, by his actions, he tries to decrease the price of human life. I'm speaking right now not just about Ukraine, but look at Russian soldiers. Look what is going on there. Look what his system, because this is his Putin's system. Look what are they doing? In case the system win, we will find that truly the cost of human life totally decreased. The same, for example, like in North Korea. That's it. Thank you.
Elena, if you had a chance to go to the Oval Office and meet with President Trump, or to meet with the Chancellor of Germany or France or Britain, the leaders there, what would you say?
Well, especially if I were in the White House, I would start with thank you very much, and we are very grateful, and it's very true. And I would probably repeat what Yevheniy just said and what Friedrich Merz said before that. We definitely need to go beyond our those things that divide us and concentrate on those things that unite us, because this fight is our joint fight, and this victory is our joint victory, and our lives, the lives of Ukrainians, our fate, let's say, our future, is what is waiting for Europeans and probably other nations in the democratic world. So in order for us all to protect liberal values, to protect our ways of life, we currently need to be bolder and start doing things, not only talking about them.
We need to be bolder and start doing things instead of just talking about things. Elena Davlikanova and Sergeant Malik, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. This has been a profound conversation. Sergeant Malik, thank you for your efforts, and thank you for surviving. I can't imagine what the 2.5 years for you was like. I just can't imagine how difficult that was. I can't imagine the harrowing experiences you had on a daily basis. And thank you for coming through that, and today being such a fierce proponent for your country and for our support, because frankly, people like you deserve our support. And so thank you, sir. And Elena, I really enjoy reading what you've written. You were even more profound and articulate today in person. And so thank you for that. Please continue your efforts to persuade people. And I hope that you get a chance to speak to some of those leaders, because I think if they heard you, they might actually be able to start not just talking, but doing. And I hope they do that. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining. I think that, what's going on in Ukraine right now is very worthy of our attention and our support and our increased support, because I agree with Elena and Sergeant Malik. I worry that, this is very similar to the attack on Poland in 1939 or 1940. And if we don't stop Russia now, why wouldn't they continue through Poland and through the Baltics? And we would live in a very different world today if we had not got involved in stopping Hitler. And I worry that if we don't get involved more than we are today, with more armaments and more assistance and more aid and more sanctions, etc., that number one, this war will continue for a long, long time, and number two, that the threat to Eastern Europe, if not even farther afield than that, will be very real. And the fact that Finland and Sweden have joined NATO suggests that people that are close to Russia probably fear the same. And so I think this is all of our war, all of our fight. Elena, Sergeant Malik, thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining.